Hello and good morning, evening or afternoon, depending on when you are watching this latest Edie Susty Talk interview. This is our series of one-to-one video interviews conducted virtually to help us feel a bit more connected to the sustainability conversation throughout COVID and beyond, connected with familiar and new faces. And it is a new face that I have on the call today, Signify UK and Ireland's fairly new CEO, Stephen Rouatt. How are you doing this morning, Stephen?
I'm doing great, Sarah. How about yourself?
Not bad, just super busy. It always is at this time of year. So not only is there COP26, but we've decided to extend that and do our whole net zero November. So the whole of November, I assume, will pass me in a little bit of a blur. And I presume it's equally busy for you guys.
Absolutely. And of course, we'll be on the ground at COP26 as well. So super busy as well. But happy to be talking today.
You too. And it's been a little while since I spoke with the guys at Signify. As I mentioned, I don't believe that you were UK and Ireland CEO at the time. So it'd be great to recap on where sustainability sits at the business, and how you as the CEO interact with the sustainability team and the rest of the board on this matter, which I know is really built in and important to the business.
Yeah, sure. So sustainability is kind of core to what we do here at Signify. So Signify, we're the old Philips lighting. We actually have had what we call a brighter lives, better world strategy. So, when you talk about being carbon neutral and so forth, we were carbon neutral by 2020, 100% renewable electricity, strong push towards now things around full use of electric vehicles. We're looking to basically double things like sustainable revenues, double the number of women we have in leadership positions. A whole bunch of strong sustainable targets that we've already achieved for 2020 and now we set for 2025. So it's literally part of the targets we set for our corporate board and so forth. So it's what we do. When you look at it within the UK&I, we literally follow the global programs and of course have our own local ones here. And when I talk to everyone on the ground, it's really everyone's very passionate about it. Sustainability is really important to a lot of the people here. And what it means for us is really around having a whole bunch of sustainable policies. We're active members of UK Green Building Council. We were one of the initial signatories for the Terra Carta with the Prince of Wales, and many other groups like UK Corporate Leaders Groups and so forth to make a difference within the group. And then with just for ourselves, we're shifting to electric vehicles. We're carbon neutral as well within our own operations here. We're shifting to zero plastic packaging. So I don't think we're 100% there yet, but we're absolutely on the journey. And importantly, when you talk a lot about Signify's sustainable products and services, we lead from the front. So we're absolutely been one of the forerunners from our 3D printing business, which basically gives you fully serviceable luminaires, lights you can basically recycle. We have obviously our solar lighting products as well. And then obviously things like our most energy efficient LED lights and so forth. So it's really core to what we do. It's something we're passionate about here in the UK&I. We introduce a lot of products into the market to really lead from the front. And obviously from a people standpoint, it's something we're just kind of passionate about it and weigh in. And for myself as the CEO, I spend a lot of time both globally with our global sustainability team and our public and government affairs group, as well as locally with the team here, just around the products we want to be introducing, the practices we put in place. When we look at our HR policies around what are the things that we're doing to change the way we operate within the UK&I. So I'd say it's almost on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that we're probably talking about one of these topics, what we're doing differently just to basically adapt.
And I feel like there's a lot of strong in-house case studies that we could go for here, but you've mentioned as well the importance to make sure that goes outside, the importance of collaboration through forums like you've mentioned, like the UK GBC, Terra Carta, corporate leaders group. So I'd like to focus on that because I think we have information about a lot of the case studies in-house that you mentioned already. And we're speaking at a time of great policy change really for the stuff that Signify does, so improving energy efficiency in buildings and for businesses, essentially. So we're speaking, if I could come on to the heat and building strategy, we're speaking shortly after that was that was published. So I'd love to get your feelings on it, about what you liked about that as a business in Signify's position, and what you feel is still missing at this point.
So any progress is good progress. So already good to see broad, bold steps being taken that are, encompassing. So it's nice to see things around electric vehicle chargers, emphasis on wind, sort of some of the renewables, new technologies and so forth, which is good. And obviously things around heat pumps also good in terms of switching. Positive, which is nice to see. Doesn't go far enough. When you take a look at, so if I can be a little bit critical, from a heat pump standpoint, when we talk about needing, I think 600,000 of them, and over the next 5 or 10 years, and from a funding standpoint, I think we're going to cover 60,000 of them, 90,000. We're well behind in terms of a funding, in terms of ability to achieve the targets that we've got. So we know we have to get to here, but we've actually only made plans for here, which is disappointing. And when you look at encompassing in terms of all the different technologies to help have more sustainable homes, if I just think about homes for a second, insulation, what do we do about double, triple pane glazing and all that stuff? How do we support and drive investment there? Missing, and I think we can do more there. And then importantly, one of the easiest and most energy efficient things you can do is just go swap your light bulbs. So when you talk about moving from older conventional lights to LED lights, you see a substantial 60, 70, 80%, depending on what you're replacing, electricity reduction. And when you look at the entire UK, we've gone from, or even globally, we've gone from 18 or 19% of all electricity being used by lighting down to 13%, which is great, just over the past 5 to 10 years. And when you look it up by 2030, we think we can get that down to about 8%. So I can actually go from total electricity being used by lighting from 13% to 8%. We can probably do that in 5 years. And it's simple. Getting people to swap older conventional lights to LED lights would save a whole bunch of electricity being used and improve quality of lighting. So if you look at the UK, I think we've got 4 coal-powered plants. And if we were to switch to LED lighting, we'd be able to get rid of one of them. And we can do that in the next 5 years. And stuff like that, we just haven't included in the plan. And I think we can be more encompassing there. I won't be critical because it's a good start, but it doesn't go nearly far enough. And you can't see the funding behind it. There's a few things that we still need to do. And importantly, some clear technologies that are easy to help drive energy efficiency we haven't included. So we really need to see the plan expanded.
I mean, I guess on the lighting piece, it is good that a lot of businesses are getting ahead of that already. So I just got a press release this week from Sainsbury's, as an example, saying as part of bringing their net zero target forward, they are just going to go completely LED within a year. And I think they said that's 20% of their total energy consumption for stores. So it's stores in the first instance. As you mentioned, I definitely thought there was much less said on things like insulation and on glazing. And again, what was mentioned was for homes. Not really sure about businesses that want to install that. And something that was obviously set up to focus on that piece of things, that retrofitting for energy efficiency before you go in with something like a heat pump, was the Green Homes Grant. And we recently covered the National Audit Office's report on that, concluding, essentially that there was a string of failures made there. And I know these aren't the technologies that Signify sells, but as a business that really is keen on energy efficiency and improving that for customers, what was it like to follow that scheme and to see that there wasn't really a big replacement in the heat and building strategy?
So the scheme itself, when first launched, okay, it was encompassing. There was big money put behind it with short timelines. And it seems, and obviously, as we look back, it was assembled really quickly. So unfortunately, what could have been a great program, again, to your point, we're missing things like switching from old double glazing to new double glazing. We're missing LED lighting and so forth. But what could have been still a decent program was hastily assembled. And I'd say importantly, without consultation with manufacturers, installers early enough to make it implementable. And I think if we look back on how that program didn't succeed, and obviously the audit office was fairly critical, anything that we look at for the future, we should be looking at having the right amount of consultation from manufacturers, from installers, really looking at all the technologies that should be included, having the right timelines, as opposed to being just an economic Kickstarter. How do you make it into a real sustainability program? Because we're looking at a green program for a couple of years. So you should give the installers the sense of comfort that sign up for this, register, put all the effort into it, because it's going to play out over the next 2 to 3 years. If it's too short-sighted, too short-term, you're going to see a much more natural hesitancy to sign up for it. And obviously, there's a whole bit around sequencing and everything else. Get the right technologies, get the right solutions in there, so that we can really encourage as many people as possible to basically greenify their homes, so to speak. And obviously, to your point, hey, offices and everything else, there's a whole separate things we can do commercially.
I wanted to come on to that, actually. So it makes sense, I suppose, to roll out a shorter term scheme with an economic focus as you're recovering from a pandemic and a recession. But it's not the first scheme that's had those sort of problems. It seems that the UK has a sort of historic problem with that. And as you say, sometimes the tech is just prioritised over the simple measures and the most effective measures and the foundation measures. And I wanted to get your view on why that is. And you mentioned that Signify obviously has a more global presence. So are there other nations that are maybe doing this better that we could learn from at COP26?
Good question. You see countries like, let's say Norway, France, actually the state of California even, they've really been progressive in how they've put environmental policy in place, regulation, as well as financial and government support to really drive innovation. I think in France, they require now for new builds, you've got to put, you either have solar panels or you have a green rooftop. Stuff like that is innovative and thoughtful, and it's things we can put in place here. Norway, I think, is nearly 100% renewable electricity now, or just using offshore wind and so forth, and a lot of the Scandinavian countries as well. I think there's a lot we can learn from other countries around putting in place pragmatic, bold solutions that just kind of help push and drive the UK forward. Importantly, you look at it, clean tech. Everyone talks about clean tech now. We've seen Bill Gates obviously double down on what we're doing in the UK, I think to £400 million or something like that in terms of a clean tech fund. You see the chairman or CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, also talking about basically the next set of unicorns are all going to come from clean tech. We have a chance here in the UK, as part of regulation, as part of funding, as part of being at the forefront of change in the UK and being a leading country around sustainability, is to be a leader in clean tech and actually build an industry base that around it that can then help countries globally. So there are some great countries out there that we can emulate, but I think it's upon us to also be a little bit more innovative and then drive that entrepreneurial thinking here to help then stimulate that globally.
Stephen, these are all massive topics and we could stay and talk on them for far longer, but I should probably let you get going. So thank you so much for coming on for Sussy Talks today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sarah. Much appreciated.